very first question. Here is the paragraph for you, and on the next slide, I will share the answer choices. So the moment you are done reading the paragraph, the moment you believe that you've taken out the key idea, drop in a quick yes in the chat box and I'll take you over to the questions. Otherwise, I'll just wait for 30 seconds and then I'll move over to the question nonetheless. And I'm sorry, I have slightly bad throat today. So I needed something warm. So I'll be sipping on some warm fluids in between. So let's start. Get rolling. Okay, so here are the options for you now. Now, did you notice that when we say the great American novel, the G, the A and the N, all the three are capitalized. What does it tell you? It tells you that it is a proper noun and not a common noun. It is the name of a particular book and not something that is supposed to read generically. So here are the options, and the moment I get 3 answers, I will start. So go ahead guys, come on. You've read the paragraph. Now tell me what the right answer is. Wait, I don't see any answers coming here. Come on. Man. मैं चैट विंडो को हसरत भरी नजरों से देख रहा हूं. आ जावे आंसर. मेरी अखियां उड़ीक दिया. Okay, so let's start. Now, you know, one of the things that can make the options of a best summary question wrong is something called the addition. So what is addition? Addition is bringing in a new idea into the answer choice, which was not present in the paragraph. Now, let's look at A. Throughout the 20th century, changes in copyright law led to longer periods of protections. This is something that has not been mentioned in the paragraph. So let's call it addition. Similarly, if I look at B, renewal, this is once again an addition, and therefore we can rule out A and B. That leaves you with C and D. Now when you look at D, D is a generic inference that you can perhaps draw from it. It is not the key idea. The key idea was after 1998, a lot of works that were protected by the Copyright Act will now be available in the public domain, and that is why we'd say that D is incomplete, more in the nature of an inference than a summary, and thus we should go ahead and opt for, as Naveen says, option C. So here comes the next question, your next para summary question, the paragraph. Once you are ready, drop in a yes. Otherwise, I'm going to wait till 30 seconds and move you over to the answer choices. Come on. Ready? So here are the options for you. So what's your take on question number 2? So you read a paragraph. Those of you who are joining in just now, you can use the seeker on your screen, go back, read the paragraph for question 2 and then answer this. Okay, so let us begin. Now, if you look at A is actually contradictory to the paragraph. Summary is of course supposed to tell you more or less something similar to the paragraph, and therefore A can definitely be ruled out. How about B? The piles of debris left behind after the bubble bursts. But the problem with this is that it does not talk about which bubble, it does not talk about debris and what kind. So I'd say this is very broad. It goes way beyond the scope of this particular paragraph. Appears to be an unlikely answer, but let us keep it in the running. C, as cities impounded derelict bikes by the thousands, they moved quickly to cap growth and regulate the industry. Well, this is an addition. Remember our friend that we met in the previous question? This is not even mentioned there. So let's eliminate it. D, the rapid growth of bike sharing companies in China. Yes, that's what the paragraph talks about. Has been badly affected due to low demand. Hmm. Okay, I think whether the demand was low in isolation or not, we wouldn't know, but it was definitely not keeping pace with the supply. But the rest of it is absolutely spot on. It does give you the key idea, and the fallout is basically described in that paragraph. So if I look at it, D is definitely better than B. So let's rule out B and choose D as our answer to this particular question. So you realize, Naveen, that we only had a slight problem with the second half, and that's why option D. Here is your next question. Question number 3 on your screen. Read the paragraph. You have 30 seconds, and then we'll move over to the answer choices. This question actually has a very important learning. It'll be absolutely amazing if you go through this. Okay, now that that is done, here are your options. Go ahead, give it a shot, and tell me what you think. Ready to discuss? So let's have a look at it. A. Artificial intelligence cannot be taught in universities. This is not given in the paragraph. So this is a distortion, or as we know it as an addition. They must not teach it to the students. Definitely not our answer. B. Universities cannot compete with the tech firms when the task requires large amounts of, should have been of, data or computing power. Absolutely correct. Given to us in the fourth or the fifth line of the paragraph. Thus, they are focusing on new ideas in the domain. This part is also correct. So, there is no distortion or addition in it. Although I think it does miss out on the very first idea, the explosion of artificial intelligence. So if I have to say something, I'd probably say it is incomplete. It is missing out on one of the three ideas mentioned in the paragraph. Let's look at C. The courses provided by universities are not complete and they should practice giving detailed information on limited topics. It does not even talk about artificial intelligence or data, etc. So let's just eliminate it. D. Universities must link up with tech firms to provide complete education. The paragraph does not use the term must. The paragraph says that they cannot compete if they do not collaborate. So they are moving towards a new way. So that new way actually makes it optional for the universities to collaborate. So this must can be ruled out, and thus the best answer choice, absolutely yes, Nishant, Naveen and Akash, the best answer choice here is indeed option B. So with that, now let us get ready to deal with a passage, right? So when you read an RC passage, what are you really supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? So here is my take. When you read the passage, you are supposed to A. Read it for generating the overview. Okay, so when you read it first, do not read it for detail. If you read it for detail, it becomes really very time consuming. So normally, you're supposed to read it for overview, and the kind of passage length that we get nowadays in the exam, right, around 450, 500 words or thereabouts, you would not like to take more than 2 minutes. And in case the passages are a little longer, as can be the case in some of these exams, for instance, I wrote Maharashtra CET recently, and there was a passage which was lengthy. There you can probably end up taking up to 3 minutes. So normally for around 450, 500 word passages, you'd like to read it in around 2 minutes. So that's our goal. So we need to train ourselves to read fast. We need to train ourselves to get the overview of the passage. At the end of the day, the passage is available with us in the examination hall. We can always refer to the right area, the relevant area, while answering the question instead of trying to memorize everything. Okay, so let us begin. So this passage may appear long to you because I am going to give you just one paragraph per slide, but in reality, if I were to combine them all in a normal font size, it's not really all that long. Okay, so let's take it paragraph by paragraph. Here is your first paragraph. The moment you're done reading it, drop in a yes or a thumbs up in the chat and I'll know. Go ahead. Done? Are we done? Are we done? Are we through? Okay, so here is the next paragraph for you. Oh, Patil and Sons. Oh man, I think we have moved on in the live class. You're probably a few seconds behind. Okay, moving on. Right, next paragraph. Okay, moving over to the next one. Next paragraph. I hope I'm giving you enough time, adequate amount of time, and the time is not an issue. Okay, the next one. Shall we move on? So here comes the next bit. So this is the last paragraph. Read it and then we'll talk. Okay, now you may look at this passage and wonder, oh, it's so long. What? So, number one is just because it's one paragraph per slide, it appears long. And number two, you need to train yourself to take out just 2, 3 things. Okay, so what are those 2, 3 things? Number one, and that's really easy. What is this passage about? This passage deals with some large investors and their goal of moving towards greener emissions, reducing emissions basically by moving towards greener tech. What is the author's take on this subject matter? Well, the author says that there are some problems, there are 3 of them mentioned, and then what can be done. And finally, what is the key idea of every paragraph? So the first one introduces this GFANZ and their plan. The second paragraph went on to tell us, let's see whether it will succeed or not. Then the next 3 paragraphs talked about one problem each. Thereafter, we went into solutions, and then you're looking at the last paragraph right now. So this is the kind of approach that you need to have for every passage. You read it and all of these things should be there in your mind. It is a skill that is built through consistent, regular practice. And now let's move over to questions, and through these questions I'd be able to tell you the kind of things that get asked in RC. So here is the very first question on your screen. Why don't you share your answer and then we will talk about it a bit more. Okay, so which of the following can be correctly inferred? Now, number one, this is a question type which is very, very frequent in the CAT. So reasoning based questions in RC are very frequent. So be ready to answer questions like which of the following can be inferred. Now, what do you mean by infer? To begin with, I mean, to keep things simple today, infer basically means conclude. So out of the options given, which one can be concluded on the basis of the information supplied in the passage? So all that I do in these questions is that I go to every answer choice and I apply a label to it. The label is true, false, or can't say. So every answer choice must belong to one of these 3 categories when we look at it as a conclusion drawn on the basis of the passage. And then normally, I'm saying normally, the option which is true is our answer, although there are situations where we even pick up a can't say as our answer, but then more on those challenging questions later. So let's see. How about A? GFANZ has pledged to discontinue investing in deforestation firms. True. You'd actually find the relevant basis for it in the first paragraph. Then B, government intervention is essential in reducing greenhouse gases. Yes, I think in the third paragraph, the author says that not all energy generation is in private hands. In fact, 13 to 42% was the number. Was in private hands, the rest of it is state owned, or was it 13 to 18%, whatever. So government owns a large chunk of energy, so private players alone cannot do it. Governments must also come on board. So this can be validated from the third paragraph, and therefore our answer here should be option C. Okay, I have a question. CET exam फिर से हो रहा है. Will you start the series? यार नहीं यार. It's actually not happening for everyone. Right, so it's only a tiny section who are unfortunately going to appear for the exam again. So launching a series does not seem very likely. However, all the things that we cover, see, even the questions that we are talking about today are going to be relevant. So for RCs, you are covered. For grammar and vocabulary based questions, please refer to our previous playlist. Then we have created a lot of those videos. I'm sure you'd find them useful. Here, so Nishant, absolutely right for question number 4. Here comes the next one for you. Question number 5 on your screen. Read it carefully and then share your answer with me. Ready? Okay. So you notice which of these, so when I say these, we are talking about the options, presents a contrast to the following segment from the passage. So basically, it is a form of comprehension based question where you need to understand the segment and then see that if this segment conveys a message, a meaning, which of the following answers gives you a contradictory or an opposite meaning. So the segment says in an ideal world, profit incentive would be aligned with reducing emissions, and these owners, since they control it, they'd be able to eventually reduce it and reinvent the economy by moving towards greener technologies, sort of. Now, if B is true, that emissions of a firm are not controlled by its owners, then even if you give incentives to the owners, should you see a reduction in the emission? Nope. And that is why B should be our answer to this particular question. Nishant, absolutely right. You are on a roll today, huh? That's amazing. So B it is. Here comes the next question for you on your screen. So go ahead, give it a shot, and then we'll talk. Done? So let's have a look at what this question talks about. So far you dealt with a reasoning based question and a comprehension based question. Now what we have here is known as a specific detail question. These questions can usually be answered by referring to the relevant part of the passage. Okay. So in this instance, here is that relevant part. So you notice without double counting, and then this goes on to describe double counting for you in the context of this particular paragraph, right? So on the basis of this, now if you look at the answer choices, something that I'm sure you've already done, you'd realize that D is the only part that will fit into this. And in fact, it is easy because the name also suggests double counting is the same emission can be counted at multiple places, right? In fact, that was also the idea behind VAT. Remember value added tax that we had prior to GSTs, and we still have VAT for some commodities. So You have it there, no? Petrol, for instance. So D it is. So you've basically been introduced to the three core question types: reasoning based questions, comprehension based questions, and specific detail questions. But here is one more. Let's see what you choose here. So as you can see, this is a main idea question that tests your ability to generate the overview from a passage. And since I helped you with that overview at the beginning, I have high hopes from you that you would get it right. Let's see what you choose as your option. Done? So let us check. Option A, the current financial system is not enough to reduce pollution. Can that work? Yes. In fact, that is the premise, right? That is where it starts. Association starting, but then there are these three problems. We need to look for solutions. One of those solutions was that we need to get government involved as well. Remember? So yes, A can be the answer. Let's keep it in running. B, financial institutions are not capable of reducing carbon emissions. The passage says that they are capable. It is just that alone they may not be sufficient. It's not that they're not capable. So that distorts the idea presented in the passage, can be eliminated. How about C? Green investing is more transparent than its fossil fuel counterparts. It is not even mentioned in the passage. So we'll say it is out of scope or irrelevant, can definitely be ruled out. So it all boils down to A versus D. The real change in carbon reporting can be brought only by the investors. Two problems with it. Number one, it does not say that it will be brought only by the investors. Even governments have a role to play. Number two, is it the main idea? Is it the focus of the passage? Is the passage about who or what can bring in change in carbon reporting? No. And thus D is also eliminated. And as a result, we can very safely choose A as our right answer here. And with that, let's move over to our next and the last question. Here it is on your screen. Another reasoning based question which has been tested very frequently over the last 2 years. Okay, the thought process required has become very crucial, very critical for the CAT RCs, at least in the last couple of years. So go ahead, give it a shot and tell me what you think. Okay. Ready? Shall we look at it? So what do we mean by strengthen? Strengthen is something that provides support to some part. So the part that we are supposed to support is heavily polluting firms will be harder to shut down due to the amount of profit generated by them. So why are we not able to shut these firms? Because they generate a lot of profits. Now in the passage, what are we comparing these with? We are comparing these with those firms that use green technologies, that have lower carbon footprint. Now this says harder to shut down because of the amount of profit generated by them. Look at C. Green techs generate much less profit when compared to fossil fuels, which are polluting. So if this is true, then what's your option? If you shut down that heavily polluting firm, you'd have to move over to green technologies, but then green technologies do not generate profit, and that's exactly the point here. When an institution, an organization, a company generates a lot of profit, it is hard to shut down. So the alternate is not going to generate as much profit. In fact, it will generate much less profit. As a result, it will be tougher for you to move away from these heavily polluting firms, and that is why option C is the one that provides support and says that it will continue to remain difficult for us to shut heavily polluting firms. So that's what this passage was all about. I hope that you got introduced to the different question varieties, and now you know the kind of challenges that are ahead for us. These are the kind of things that we need to learn and develop, and you can do it by just remaining consistent, by just focusing. So I would like to call it a day by introducing this very nice thought to you. 4 rules for life. Show up. Show up is just go on and perform the task. Pay attention. So do not sleepwalk through it. Tell the truth. Do not be attached to the result. So basically, show up for work every day. Give your best. Do not worry much beyond that.